host in this first pod connected to leaf switch 1 and 2, and its address is 172.16.112.201. We're 202, this host is 201. And when I go to reach that host, I have reachability. Now the latency is a little high because we're running virtual routers, and throughput isn't perfect, but on my leaf switches, I now have learned through data plane learning MAC addresses in VLAN 12. And so I have a local MAC address on port channel 4, and I have a remote MAC address on interface VXLAN 1. And if I were to log into leaf 1, same thing. I have a local MAC address on port channel 4 and a remote MAC address on VXLAN 1. So we've built a layer 2 bridge domain across a layer 3 fabric, and we can look at our spines, which are doing the layer 3 transport. We don't have any participation at the spine layer, the layer 3 layer in VLAN 12. And in fact, we have no VXLAN interfaces at all. And we're literally just routing between the loopback 1 IP addresses on all these switches. And so we have 56 is known via 2 paths to these 2 switches on ETH4 and 5. And we have VTEP 34 on leaf switch 1 and 2, which is known via Ethernet 2 and 3. So we can do ECMP across both links from each of the spines to each of the VTEPs. And that's basically it in a nutshell. That all makes sense?
Yep.
I know we went over that super fast. We can definitely get into this in more detail.
Okay, well, one question.
Yes.
What are the timers for the session between the leaf for the VXLAN tunnels?
So those are created dynamically. Effectively, we're learning that in the MAC address table. So if we get, if we have a packet that we don't know where it's supposed to go, we're going to flood it. So at the time that we receive a packet, we're going to flood to however many IPs we have in this list. You could build very large topologies even with just static flooded lists. And then once that answering VTEP replies, we'll populate that into the MAC table. So it really comes down to ARP timers and MAC address table timers.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that because this topology, this feature VLAN, I know that is most common on data centers. But we're planning to use it for create circuits in long haul distance. Let's say one side will be maybe Dallas, and the other side will be LA. And we're planning to run the tunnels or that be at VXLAN. And my question was only for this some kind of timers if the tunnel must meet the requirements in order to establish the session.
No, and I it would be useful for me, I think, maybe to build a topology like that with the latencies that you're talking about. But I mean, really, we're talking about a router or a switch connected at layer 2 to some segment. We have layer 3 reachability. to some cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be, any distance. It really just turns into what is acceptable latency between these hosts on left side, right side.
Mm-hmm.
And on left, this is an extremely simple topology, right? Just two locations. But it gets a little bit more interesting when we add a third site, and we have that same VLAN presence in multiple locations.
Mm-hmm.
So on site A, we'd have a VTEP flood list to B and C.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, we would have on B, we would have a VXLAN VTEP flood list for A and C. And, again, it's just that simple flood for A and B. So when you have traffic that is unknown, like if we're sourcing traffic from host A to any other host in the network, when it's unknown or it's multicast or broadcast, we're going to take that traffic and forward it to both sites B and C.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's like an ARP or a learning, we're going to get that traffic back, and we're going to write a local entry in our MAC table that I know how to reach host B and C via my VXLAN 1 interface, which is kind of a dynamic multi-point tunnel. So there's no timers per se. It's literally just what is the latency of response traffic in order for us to learn. And then, if there's no current traffic, the tunnel isn't like nailed up or torn down after a certain period of time. It's just a logical construct to say,
Okay.
Send traffic to this remote VTEP.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right?
Got it.
So if we do show VXLAN VNI 1212, we can see that we have VNI 1212 is mapped to local VLAN 12, and that's forwarding on that particular interface. Otherwise, we can look at, where's my
Okay, what is the size of the headers that are in the packet for the?
Oh, right. So VXLAN header is, I want to say 40 bytes.
Okay.
It's UDP port 4789, and so that has to be there. And I just don't recall off the top of my head.
Okay.
I would Google it. But,
okay. Okay. And another question.
Yep.
I don't know what is the recommendation for you. What should be the maximum leaf that we could deploy in a multi-point service?
How many?
Uh-huh.
So we did. It does scale pretty well. We did a POC where we scaled out to 900 VTEPs, so basically 900 racks for a cloud customer. Now those are all co-located in the same data center, but again, they're all layer 3 separated. So I've seen very large deployments. Typical deployments in my area are 8 to 10 to 12 racks. We have a pretty large customer here in San Antonio that's doing, I don't think hundreds, in the tens of racks. But yeah.
Okay. Great.
Now, when you start, just on a point on that, when we start to scale out a little bit, what I've shown you is a static flood list. We're literally, mapping which IP addresses do I send this to, and by using a shared loopback between